You're totally doing nighttime fat loss wrong, especially if you think the last thing you eat before bed is the problem. Want to know the real deal? The key to burning visceral fat overnight isn't your dinner, it's not your fasting window, it's not even your supplements. It's what you do in the 2 hours before you close your eyes. And here's the wild part. Our ancestors figured this out thousands of years before sleep trackers, melatonin gummies, and blackout curtains existed. They lived in ways that made storing visceral fat nearly impossible overnight. Not because they were disciplined, not because they tried harder, because their environment did it for them automatically. So in this video I'm going to break down 5 ancient bedtime habits that activate overnight fat burning, and how you can use them today without giving up your modern life. But first, you need to understand something that most fat loss videos will never tell you. Visceral fat is not like regular fat. It doesn't just sit there, it wraps around your organs, it drives inflammation, it destroys insulin sensitivity. It's linked to heart disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and accelerated aging. And here's what makes it completely different from the fat you can pinch on your waist. Visceral fat responds directly to hormones, specifically 2 hormones, cortisol and insulin. When those two are elevated, visceral fat grows. When they drop, visceral fat burns. And the single most powerful window for dropping both of them simultaneously is the night, while you sleep. Which means what you do in the 2 hours before bed either opens that fat-burning window completely, or slams it shut. Our ancestors didn't have this problem, and the reason why is about to completely change how you think about your evenings. Here's the first habit. They stopped eating when the light disappeared. Not at 7 because an app told them to, not because of a protocol they read about online, because there was simply no food visible in the dark, no kitchen, no refrigerator, no delivery app. When the sun went down, eating stopped, naturally, automatically, without willpower. And that natural cutoff created something modern science now calls an insulin quiet zone. When you stop eating 3 to 4 hours before sleep, insulin levels begin to fall. And when insulin falls, your body finally gets permission to access stored fat, including the deep visceral fat packed around your organs. A 2025 study published in Nature Medicine confirmed that early time-restricted eating, specifically stopping food intake in the early evening, reduced visceral fat and improved blood sugar regulation more effectively than any other dietary timing strategy tested. Our ancestors didn't call it intermittent fasting, they called it nightfall, and it worked every single night without them thinking about it once. The second habit. They walked after their last meal, every single day, not to burn calories, not to hit a step count. Not because a fitness tracker told them to close their rings. They walked because that's simply what you do after eating when you live outside. You keep moving, you gather more, you head back to camp. And that simple instinct does something remarkable to your metabolic chemistry. When you walk for just 10 to 15 minutes after your final meal of the day, your muscles begin pulling glucose directly out of your bloodstream. Insulin spikes less, blood sugar stabilizes faster. And when insulin is lower going into the night, growth hormone can surge during deep sleep exactly the way it was designed to. Here's the contrast most people miss. Running spikes cortisol. A hard evening workout, especially a stressed, exhausted person pushing through cardio at 8 p.m., can actually raise cortisol at the exact time your body needs it to fall. Walking does the opposite. Walking lowers cortisol. It calms the nervous system. It signals safety. Our ancestors never confused intense exercise with evening movement. One was for survival. The other was just life. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the third habit is the one nobody expects. They used darkness as a metabolic weapon. Ancient humans slept in complete darkness. No screens, no LED lights, no glowing phone face down on the nightstand still lighting up the room, no streetlight bleeding through thin curtains, total darkness. And that darkness wasn't just about sleep quality, it was directly connected to fat metabolism. Here's the mechanism. When light, any light, hits your retina at night, your brain interprets it as daytime. Melatonin production slows or stops entirely, and melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. Research published in 2025 in the journal eFood confirmed that melatonin directly regulates the activity of hormone-sensitive lipase, one of the primary enzymes responsible for breaking down stored fat overnight. Low melatonin means that enzyme barely functions. Low melatonin also means higher nighttime cortisol, and higher cortisol means your body shifts into storage mode, packing energy centrally, around your organs, exactly where you don't want it. You can fast perfectly all day. You can walk after every meal. But if you're staring at a screen until 11 p.m., your hormones are actively working against everything you built during daylight. Our ancestors slept in darkness because they had no alternative. That constraint protected their metabolism every single night without them knowing it. The fourth habit. They went to sleep cold. Ancient humans didn't have thermostats set to 72 degrees. They didn't have heated bedrooms or electric blankets. They slept in cool environments, tents, caves, open air, and that wasn't a disadvantage. It was a metabolic advantage they never knew they had. Research shows that sleeping in a room between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit activates brown adipose tissue. Brown fat is completely different from white fat. White fat stores energy. Brown fat burns it. Brown fat generates body heat by combusting calories, and it does this all night long while you sleep. It's literally fat that burns fat, and it's directly suppressed by warm sleeping environments. A study from the National Institutes of Health found that participants who slept in cooler rooms for just 4 weeks increased their brown fat activity by up to 40% and improved their insulin sensitivity at the same time. Our ancestors stumbled into this metabolic advantage by necessity. You can recreate it tonight by simply turning down the thermostat before bed. And now the fifth habit, the one that ties everything together, and the one that most people living modern lives have almost completely eliminated without realizing it. They wound down with their bodies, not their minds. Ancient humans ended every day physically. The transition from day to night wasn't a shift from one screen to another. It was a gradual physical deceleration. They prepared food with their hands. They tended fires. They stretched, crouched, sat on the ground. They did quiet, low-level physical work as the light faded and the temperature dropped. And that gentle physical wind-down triggered a hormonal cascade that modern people rarely experience. Cortisol dropped steadily. Melatonin rose on schedule. Core body temperature fell naturally. And the body arrived at sleep already primed. Hormones aligned, nervous system calm, fat-burning machinery ready to run. Today, most people do the exact opposite. The last hour before bed is the most mentally stimulating hour of the day. News, social media, arguments in comment sections, stressful emails, cortisol spikes, melatonin gets suppressed, sleep becomes shallow, growth hormone barely pulses, and visceral fat gets a free pass all night long, storing, not burning, because the hormonal environment never shifted the way it was supposed to. The fix is not complicated. 10 minutes of light movement after your last meal, no screens for the final hour before sleep, a cool dark room, a consistent time you get into bed. That is the entire ancient wind-down protocol. It costs nothing, it requires no equipment. And it works because it's not a hack, it's what your biology was designed for. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. None of these 5 habits are extreme. None of them require discipline or willpower or hours of effort. But combined, they build a hormonal environment overnight where visceral fat simply cannot thrive. Lower insulin, lower cortisol, higher melatonin, cooler body temperature, deeper sleep, more growth hormone, more fat burned while you do absolutely nothing but rest. Our ancestors didn't need fat loss protocols because their entire daily rhythm, especially the evening rhythm, kept their hormones exactly where they needed to be without a single conscious decision. The real lesson isn't that ancient humans were tougher than us. It's that their environment regulated them, and your job is to rebuild that environment deliberately, one evening at a time. Stop eating when the light fades, walk after your last meal, kill the screens an hour before bed, turn the thermostat down, wind your body down, not just your mind. Do these 5 things consistently, and your body will handle the rest while you sleep. If this video gave you something you didn't have before, subscribe. Because next week we're going inside the ancient morning routine that naturally resets cortisol, optimizes testosterone, and starts fat burning before 9 in the morning. And I promise you, it has nothing to do with cold plunges or expensive supplements. It's older than that. And it works better than anything modern fitness culture is selling you right now.